Boom. We live. We live now.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
In a manner of speaking. So
I've been moving around slow. It took me forever to get ready for this thing.
Yeah. So God, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but my cat turned into a psychedelic pretzel on Sunday.
Yeah, just let that soak in. Luckily, we only have 4 people watching right now,
Yeah.
so it
Well,
won't really.
It's pretty obvious that I've entered into a psychedelic phase of my life again. Since which I have not done since the 1970s. But I found a reliable source of a psychedelic drug called psilocybin, which I can get the person to bring me doses once a week. And I am entering into, I do it weekly. And I meet with a therapist bi-weekly to discuss what happened and what's going on. And of course, the therapist can't do a controlled session with me because that's illegal, in Minnesota for a therapist to do that. And I have been, I think I've been changing my brain significantly. And I don't know if it's for the better. It seems like it. I sure feel better. I have very little anxiety. I'm dealing with my grief in a much more, open manner with myself. I seem to be hiding from it less. I'm making progress on that front. I'm fucking far from having dealt with this grief problem that I have. But I'm calmer. And I don't know. I think it's made an improvement. It hasn't had any effect on my ability to learn molecular biology or calculus.
So you still have focus and retention.
I have more focus. And the interesting thing is that my psychiatrist described me when he first met me as a squeeze the lemon kind of person. And I was running around trying to read all these books that I've got, like 3,000 books. And I was almost desperate because I realized I'm running out of time and there's only so much I can learn. But in the last 6 months, I have transformed into just reading my books because I fucking enjoy it. And I always have. And I don't care that I'm not going to, master any subject anytime ever. But it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, knowledge for its own sake, the learning is a great thing. It feels great. It gives you a sense of wonder in the world. And speaking of a sense of wonder, hello, David. How you doing this morning?
I am great, thank you.
Well, it's great to have you on board here. I really like this new schedule of yours.
Yeah.
Wow, that is some cool pictures right there.
Okay, I actually saw that when I Now, there's a lot of misunderstanding of LSD and psilocybin and those kind of psychedelics that you hallucinate.
Is that it accurate? Like kind of what you saw, something like that?
This is far more accurate than my thumbnail. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it only happens when you close your eyes, and then when you open your eyes, you can still see it when you open your eyes for a little while.
For a little bit,
you immediately start to perceive things normally. But now, if you go and look at a pattern like a popcorn on the ceiling or the woods, something where there's a continual repeating pattern of things, then you will have what you would describe as visual hallucinations.
Right. Now, is this who did these particular images?
Top Dog got these from an AI site called Night Cafe Studio, I think.
Well, I don't know if it was one of those headlines or links that Top Dog showed, or if I just saw it on a banner somewhere. But they've been using AI to make drawings of the images that people on DMT see.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and
there's always this kind of universal weird beings that they see and that they think are like angels or demons or something from the other world or whatever, because it's a kind of a universal experience. So I hear.
Yeah, and it's universal because of a number of reasons. Number one, we're all exposed to the same cause, the same artistic images, the same kinds of imaginary images. And number two, we have the same kind of visual processing system. And the thing that's misunderstood about LSD, for instance, is when you see these wild visual hallucinations on a high dose of LSD, what you're really seeing is how your brain is processing images. You're seeing what is actually going on in your brain. It's just that you're not doing that extra part where you cut out a whole lot of sensory experience and you rationalize and you come up with a more of a conceptual version of what you're seeing. Like when you look at a table on LSD, as you move your eyes and as your eyes are doing these saccades, your eyes have something called saccadic motion. Every time you can't stop it. Every time you look at an image, your eyes go boop, 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 and they zip around. Like if you look at a face, they'll look at lips, nose, eyes, and then back again. And you put together this image, and then it goes through your visual processing system, reaches the kind of the four areas of your brain, and that's where you cut out most of what you see. And if you look at a table, the saccades of your eyes will make the table look like it's waving up and down if you look at the raw visual data that your primary visual cortex is getting. Okay, but by the time it gets to your what we call conscious mind, you have turned it into what you remember that table should look like, that they are flat. And you basically, so you're always overriding these raw visual images with what you have learned over your lifetime. And that's how our brain works, right? Well, LSD fucks all that up, at least the forebrain part of it, and you can see more clearly the raw sensual images.
So real quick, which one of these images looks the most like Loki from your experience on Sunday?
The lower right.
Okay.
Well, all of them. The thing is, actually, Loki's face looks more like the upper right image.
Yeah, I was thinking if I was going to see a psychedelic cat, that one on the upper right would be the one I'd rather see. I mean,
yeah, if you were to combine all four of these images and a few thousand others and made them swim together, that's what it would look like. It's a swimming visual image. But now there again, that's only when you close your eyes. Like I'm looking at the cat. I close my eyes. I have an after image on my retina, right? And I have after images in my primary visual cortex. And those after images are what turn into these colorful patterns. And they're just fucking beautifully multicolorful. And then you open your eyes again and the after image sticks around for a little while and it sort of like overlays the cat's face, but it goes away within 1 second. So then I start seeing the cat again.
Can I ask you a question? Like when you're under the influence, right? I mean,
Yep.
How much control do you have? Like, obviously, you wouldn't want to drive, correct? Like, you couldn't
Right.
drive a car, right?
I have driven on high doses of LSD and I found it to be interesting.
Not a good idea, or
I didn't. I don't think it's a problem.
dangerous?
I was going 15 miles an hour.
yeah,
Well,
but
you
I
can
mean,
get
it's
pulled
not a
over
good
for
idea,
that.
though, right?
I know.
It's dangerous, correct? I would assume.
Yeah, it would. It's not
I don't know.
recommended. Don't fucking recommend that. No, because well, for one thing,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
car,
Okay.
my car's
But as
was the
far as like
size of
doing
a-
other stuff, like what? I mean, you can, I mean, is it? How
Well,
much control do you have? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not
okay.
obviously it's not a good idea to be running a chainsaw or something like that, right? I mean,
No, and you wouldn't run a chainsaw. No, I
right.
have a little anecdote about that. Right, me and my friend, when we were 20 years old, we took 12 gauge shotgun, or no, it was a 20 gauge shotgun down to the river on LSD because we wanted to fire the shotgun and see what it sounded like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had the shotgun and I had the shells, and I probably had a shell in the shotgun. And this shotgun, you had to pull a hammer back and go through a lot of work to actually fire it, right? It couldn't accidentally misfire. You could drop it on the ground or whatever.
That's a good thing. Yep.
Yeah. So we got to the bridge. We got to the railroad trestle, and I put the shotgun over the bridge, pulled the hammer back, and it took about a minute for us to get the courage to pull the trigger. And I pulled the trigger, and this explosion happened that was beyond anything I'd ever heard or experienced in my life. And me and him just backed off. I cracked the shotgun open. I took the shells out of basically, ejected that shell, but I had live rounds, live ammo in my pockets. I took it out of my pockets and gave it to McCormick because I didn't want him to be in my pocket because I was holding the gun. And all the way back, we walked with the gun cracked open, and we kept an eye on it so that it didn't accidentally hurt us. That's the kind of paranoia you get. So
Okay.
you would never think of firing up a fucking chainsaw.
Yeah.
So
paranoia is part of the experience too. Yeah.
oh yeah, you get a high level of alertness as to what can hurt you. And I often simply crawl around the floor because I don't trust walking because you could fall down. It just seems like a bad idea.
Another question: when you just said you fired that the shell in the experience, so in other words, the dosage intensified your perception of the noise too,
yes,
you were describing. Yeah,
right. It reverberated and it just kept going and going. Yeah, and it was. And it was so frightening that I think it made me respect guns for my entire life far more than I would have respected guns prior to that. It scared the living fuck out of us.
Wow, so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and then the other thing that I've grappled with is if you take a really high dose, like 6 grams of mushrooms is almost twice the heroic dose. You feel insane. Like you're thinking, like your thoughts are just sort of disjointed and you can't quite grasp what thinking even is.
Yeah.
But the whole time I was doing this, I was telling myself, this is insane. You are not sane right now. You are not thinking sanely. Mm-hmm. So the question is, what was that was telling me that I wasn't thinking sanely, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that never went away. Whatever it is that protects me from harm, that makes me not want to do dangerous things, that makes me be very cautious about my sanity, is still perfectly intact. And now I understand that real insane people don't know that they're insane people. I don't know if it's, I'm sure sometimes they figure it out, but.
Yeah. So now are you taking heroic doses, I would assume, real high doses? Or?
Yes. Yeah. 6 grams, up to 8 grams. Heroic doses anywhere from 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
Yeah.
So, and you're even above that. So you're going 6. So that's,
Yeah, I don't do that all the time. And because it's too goddamn exhausting. For 2 hours, you basically have no control over your thoughts at all. You sit, your head is down. You're listening to music. You have to get up and go to the bathroom every now and then, which is perfectly doable. And then at some point, as you get used to that extreme high, you get to the point where you can start to do things. And I was doing karate forms and fucking stretches, and I was walking around the room and doing dancing and doing things, that required, a lot of coordination. But it took a while to get used to that because I was so overwhelmed by my sensory input that I didn't feel safe for a long time.
So you were doing karate forms?
Yeah. Well,
so this so reminds me of the opening scene to Apocalypse Now. Where you have Martin.
Oh yeah,
Martin Sheen in there, with the ceiling fan in his underwear and his Speedos doing Tai Chi or something.
Yeah.
Now, how long lasting is it? It's very long lasting, isn't it?
No, LSD is long lasting. There are other psychedelics that last for days. LSD lasts for about you're probably peaking for about 3-4 hours, but the whole experience lasts about 12 hours. So psilocybin is really intense. 15 minutes after you take a heavy dose, up to the first 2 hours, and then you sort of come down to the point where you start to feel euphoric, and that would be the point where you might actually think that this is a recreational drug. That first 2 hours, you kind of feel like you're in hell. I mean, it does.
Right,
It's not a fun experience at all. It's It's a very enlightening experience, but it is not comfortable. You do not feel comfortable. And
for the first two, but then after
that, you can get into this euphoric zone depending on what you've dealt with in the first 2 hours, right? Like if you have something particular on your mind, like a particular kind of anxiety or whatever, that is going to be amplified 1,000 times, and that is going to dominate your experience. Like if you're afraid, like if my sons are out driving and it's icy, that's all I'll fucking think about for 2 hours, and no, that's not all. At the beginning of that, what happens is like you can go through your history of your life, like your memory, page at a time, 3 pages a second. Like you'll be 8 years old, and then you'll be 9 years old, and then you'll be 10 years old, and then you'll be back at 8 years old. And it's so rapid that you tend to become completely exhausted. And at the end of it, you can't remember you can only remember a couple of highlights. Like you'll remember certain experiences. Like I was talking to a friend who we both had the memory of the smell of our father when we were very, very young children. Like my dad smelled like beer, and you're like rocketed back into your past in a very, very real sense, and it's unbelievable. But then you also remember the emotional feeling of being a child and being vulnerable, and and that is where the psychology happens, right? That's where the psychotherapy happens. When you start experiencing your former self, the way I put it is this: all of us have this undocumented terrain that exists just beneath our conscious life every day. It changes. It controls what we say, how we react to things, and who we are, right? But it is undocumented, and it's an undocumented terrain. When you do these psychedelics and you do them properly, you don't mix them with other drugs. You take safety precautions. You get a good psychiatrist to work with you. What you do is you start documenting that terrain of your life. And suddenly you can see some of the things that you are doing and how you're doing them based on what's happened to you in the past. At that point, you start to rewire who you are, to the point you rewire yourself to be something that you want to be rather than something that you just happen to be.
Now, Bree is kind of doing the same thing, right? So
I think Bree went public with that a little bit, but that's a possibility, but I can't speak for Bree.
Now, the other day they had a stream. Gurr had a stream, and they were all getting high. And I thought
I was on there for a few minutes.
Bree, yeah. Remember that? Yeah, that's right. You were there too. Yeah,
I was there.
Now, Bree was doing shrooms too, I think, at that time, right? Correct?
Yeah, but unfortunately, combining it with very heavy hits of marijuana.
Right.
And
is that bad?
I'm a purist. I would never do that. I would never combine 2 drugs. So I don't
But
know.
wouldn't the high's kind of similar though too, right?
No, no,
No.
very different. Let's see. Marijuana would be like, God, it's like a long, a little
But
bit
I was just
more like
thinking
alcohol.
similar because the euphoria type part of it
Yeah, you get a little bit of
would
that. Yeah,
be so. Yeah,
yeah. THC has a psychedelic element to it, but
a little bit. Yeah.
it's like it's tamped down. It's
Right.
like it's
Right.
repressed, that sort of thing. Whereas LSD and psilocybin get you into the electric phase of that psychedelic experience, where
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to slow. And I think, well, psilocybin doesn't seem to affect my coordination, other than that I am afraid to do it. I'm afraid to trust it, right? Trust my
Right.
coordination.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess a couple times I've legitimately stood up and kind of staggered a little bit, like, okay, I'm not on good ground here. I need to
Yeah.
sit the fuck down, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. But these are not like really ridiculously heavy doses. So yeah, if you, yeah, what the fuck? Okay, let's address this. Multiple things. One for the psychedelics, one for the feel good, one for the additional energy. Yeah, uh, I that's not a good idea. Combining psychedelics. I mean, you're pushing your neurotransmitters this way and that way and whatever, and God knows what you're going to end up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not safe to do that, and it's not safe to do any of this. And nobody should try this stuff unless
Yeah.
you're really old and you don't really give a fuck what happens to you anymore. I don't know.
Now, acid would be more on in the line of what?
Acid is even more electric and more visual, uh, and lasts longer,
Mm-hmm.
and tends to be overall a more meaningful experience, I think, with
Mm-hmm.
LSD. There's a whole phase in LSD where you've gone through the 4 hours of reality melting, and you come back to who you are, and then you just start going for a walk around the neighborhood, and you're like just intensely blown away by the beauty of the world and the beauty of the fact that you get to walk around on this earth, and
Now,
and that can last for like 6 hours. This
yeah.
euphoric
Now,
feeling.
I took acid once, only
Okay,
once in my life,
what
and
was it like?
I found it. I mean, maybe whatever I took was really weak, or so, I don't know, because I took it at a concert, at a rock concert, and we were drinking alcohol, and I found that I didn't get high. I was able to drink a tremendous amount of alcohol, like beer.
Right.
I
It,
drank a boatload of beer and didn't seem to be. They almost canceled each other out.
they
I don't
do.
know.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. They do
So
physiologically.
yeah,
Like yeah. If you're extremely drunk and you take acid, it will sober you up within 20 minutes,
yeah, yeah.
almost
That's
completely.
basically what it was. I was like drinking, 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 and no, wow, yeah. So that was basically my own, and I didn't get any, any type of visual, you know, uh, nothing like, there was no issues with visual things at all. Like I didn't, things weren't like what you're describing
Even
whatsoever. Right?
even if you closed your eyes, you didn't see colored patterns and things like
Not
that.
that I could recall. I mean, maybe, but
Yeah,
it
you shouldn't
seemed
have
to
drank.
like,
You fucked it up.
well, I wasn't planning to
Yeah.
do it. You know what I mean? What happened was is we were going to the concert and we got a lot of beer and we drank. It was a long drive. It was like a 3.5 hour drive. So of course that's a long drive and you did a lot of drinking going there, right? And by the time you got there, then you started drinking. And this particular concert, was at a like a speedway, like a racetrack type speedway thing. It was just all outside, open,
Right.
and we're in these, in these fields where that was where the parking was, were these huge, long fields, and it was just rows and rows of cars. And we parked quite a ways away, probably 4 or 5 football fields. You had to walk through the field to get to the concert,
Right.
right? And I am not acid every 10 feet. Like people, oh, do you want any acid? Do you want this? Do you want that? And it was all acid because it was a Blue Oyster Cult and Black Sabbath concert. So that was just back in those days. This was in the 70s. That was just the thing
Yeah.
at that time that, a lot of people that like that type of music did acid. It was just a really big thing. So I ended up grabbing some because it was just so much. Like it was,
Yeah.
I had probably more than 100 people. Do you want any acid? Ask you if you wanted any, and I just decided to try it. And
Yeah. You
I,
could have licked the guy next to you and got high.
yeah, oh yeah, probably, yeah. And I think as a matter of fact, I think I smoked some hash too. We had some hash. I may have smoked a little pot too, possibly. I remember I did smoke a little hash, but it was long. I mean, it was, shit. We were probably between the trip, the concert, and getting back. It was, a whole like 24 hours practically, close to it. Because it was a 3.5 hour drive there, 3.5 hours back. The whole concert, so it was a pretty, it was probably 16-hour day by the time you did all that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's hard to say. Like, well, what effects did you have from the LSD that you noted? I mean, was there anything that you?
no, I mean, I felt like you said, it sobered me up
Yeah. Okay.
basically, and I was able to just drink, 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 and I don't, I definitely didn't get the real high from it,
Yeah.
you know. So, and as
There's
far
nothing.
as I can recall, I don't think I may have tried it one other time. I think that was the only time I ever tried it, and
Yeah.
I just was kind of a little nervous about it because I just didn't like that type of a really out of control high type stuff.
Right. Right.
I just was not that type of a person. I mean, I didn't mind getting completely drunk, but
That's kind of amusing because alcohol is the most out of control high that you can possibly get.
right,
Right.
right, exactly. And then yeah, and then you're
And
afraid of acid. You're right.
yeah, and when I did LSD back in the 60s and the 70s, I would actually go to work and operate train car. Like I'd pull train cars through pockets, and I would go to work ripped on acid.
Hmm.
And in fact, I did all kinds of things like that where I learned how I had learned the LSD experience so well that I was actually more skilled on LSD than I was off because I was more aware of what was going on. And I was able to do a number of things on LSD.
Yeah,
Of course, I was pretty fucking young, right? I was like 20 years old. So,
yeah, yeah. I felt like it was more of a. It also gave me probably more like a speed type high too, where I was, completely
yeah,
alert, couldn't sleep.
maybe maybe you had acid laced with meth because meth will also sober you up immediately if you take it when you're drunk.
Right, maybe right. It could have been that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the problem back then was, well, actually, we didn't have a lot of problem with quality control in 69, 70, 71, 72.
Hmm.
In the 80s and 90s, that's when people started fucking creating cocktail drugs
Yeah.
and they started adding meth to LSD and all kinds of other shit.
Hmm.
And it became a little less reliable, you
I
know.
tell you, one thing that it did, it probably saved all of our lives because I took that because I was the only one awake on the ride home,
Yeah.
and we're driving home, and I was in the back seat in the middle, and I was pretty messed up at that point, as far as uh, and I was kind of like, you know, not, not really passing out a little bit, kind of like, okay, I'm exhausted. This has been a long day, type of thing. Nothing, just trying to like the whole car. Everybody was asleep except for the driver, right? Everybody's passed out in the car, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the middle, and I was definitely pretty fucked up because I probably, I think I drank like a case of beer at least, a lot of beer, and I'm watching the road, and I'm tired, and I see the road start going, back and forth, like, you know, drifting back and forth. And I
Right.
thought it was me, I'm like, oh, wow, I am really fucked up, right? Because I'm watching and the road's going one way and then the back the other way. And I'm like, wow, I'm pretty fucked up, I guess, right? And then I realized I look over and there's the driver passing out. It was him. It wasn't me. It was
Right.
him.
Right.
And he was passing out and going from one side, and then he'd wake up and go the other. It was like, and then I said, hey, pull over, pull over, pull over. And he pulled over, and we sat and, took a break for a little bit. And then we got back into the car and drove the rest of the way home. But I mean, I was the only one awake in the car, and he was passing out driving.
Yeah.
So basically, I probably saved all our lives because he would have killed us.
Yeah.
I
We
mean, we
went to
were
this
flying down the
rock
highway,
concert.
we were on the highway doing, 60, 70 miles an hour.
We went to a rock concert in Wisconsin, and Rodney's wife threw his keys into the bushes because she didn't want us to go. So Rodney hotwired his car. So we were driving across Wisconsin at like fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. Rodney was going about 60, 70 miles an hour. And we were all in various states of passing out in the back seat. And I woke up and looked, and we had no headlights. And Rodney, because it happened so gradually as the battery went dead, because he forgot to wire the battery, he forgot to do the battery wire that would have charged the battery.
Yeah.
So like he could see like 1 foot in front of him, and like, fucking Rodney, pull over, and stopped him.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we ended up in Madison, Wisconsin, and we pulled into this huge parking lot, like this mall parking lot. We were the only car there, and the car died, and we couldn't get it started again.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, in my infinite wisdom, to go call the police to help us. And and the reason I decided to do that is because I said, Rodney, if we call the police, they'll never show up.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have any ID. He didn't have a license. He had no proof of ownership. We had a hot wired car. We were a bunch of Minnesota kids in Wisconsin at 3 a.m., right? Like,
Yeah.
we're going to jail if the cops show up, right?
Right.
So I went and called the cops, and they said, well, sir, we don't handle that kind of an emergency. And I swear, the cops stayed away from us for the next 3 hours while we figured out our battery problem. I think we passed out for 3 hours, and then we tried the car again, and we had enough juice to start it. So off we went.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't called the cops, they would have showed up, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the best way to get rid of the cops is to call them.
Yeah.
Right.
We want nothing to do with you. Yeah.
Anyway, that was my thinking, and it actually that was one of the rare times that my really, really crooked thinking worked.
Yeah.
Normally it backfired.
So going back, let's say a year and a half, you talked about your addiction and the stuff that you went through all those years, and I know you had mentioned things like you didn't want to touch anything because of the issues you had. But now you're doing this. So do you find it that it could be an issue or no?
I spent 3 years thinking about this before I did it, and talking to people about it, and deciding whether or not I was going to do it. And I realized that if I did it, that there would be risks, and that I had to do it when I was older. And so it wasn't something that I just launched into because of my cocaine
Right.
I'm a
Yep.
cocaine, meth, addict, and an alcoholic. So those
Right,
are the
right.
3 drugs. I don't think I could get addicted to opiates or heroin because I hate them so much. And
Yep.
going into this, I talked to basically some people in AAA, and
Yep.
and I had to assess what happened to me. Now, when I was doing cocaine and drinking a quart and a half vodka a day and doing cocaine, nobody would see me for 3 days. I hid my use. I wasn't open about it.
Yep.
My room was a fucking mess. There were pizza boxes lined up on the floor. You couldn't walk across the floor without kicking debris aside and dust bunnies, or I called them dust mammoths because they were much bigger than dust bunnies. And basically I was losing weight. I didn't clean. I didn't take care of myself. It was an entirely different effect, right? And so if any of those effects had happened when I started this psychedelic journey, we would have obviously have had a problem, right?
Yep.
I mean, you would have never seen me on YouTube. You would have never heard from me had I been, in my addiction, that sort of thing. So,
Right. Yep.
but yeah, it's a topic I discuss every single time I meet with my psychiatrist. Is this, am I imagining the positive effects of this? Am I doing it too regularly? Like at first I was going to do it a couple times.
Yep.
And then I decided, no, it's more like something that I want to basically do as a habit in my life. And I've also experimented with microdosing. And,
Yep.
and I fully understand that I'm experimenting on my brain, on my mind, and I'm experimenting on my belief system.
Yep.
And what I did going into this is I said, I don't care if I become a Republican or how I change I have no
Expectations on what
expectation about what I become.
Right. Right.
Other than that,
Just whatever it is. Right.
I insist that it be better than what I was. I want to be a better man than what I
Right.
was.
You want that's right. That's your goal. Right.
I don't think that's addictive behavior. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But habitual,
hey,
it's
hey,
so I don't know.
let's face it. You only got so many years left, right?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Let's be honest, right? We're honest. You only got.
When I go to the Mayo in August, they may well tell me that the cancer's back, and
right.
I had cancer a year ago, fucking deadly kidney cancer that could have killed me. So I have no idea what's going to happen. And so I don't know. I think I'm taking one for the team. Is how I look at it in a lot of ways. This guy right here. We were going to talk about a lot of other things this morning, and we ended up. And I said, "Oh, maybe we'll bring up mushrooms." But yeah, I guess we talked about it a long time, didn't we?
Hey, I'm too old to be sticking to a schedule. Let's just let it go naturally and just be an organic episode of Answers in Atheism today. Don't worry about it.
I do want to talk about that atheism thing with Kenami or whatever his name is.
Sure.
Kenami, yeah. But I want to talk about this guy, Rick Doblin. Now, he's a person that was a draft dodger, and he decided to be a conscientious objector and not register for the draft. So he was a criminal. He said, he was basically criminalized in 1969, the Vietnam War, and he did it knowingly and on purpose. And he said, well, what the hell? Now that I'm a criminal, I may as well get into psychedelic research because, I'm already damned. Because anybody that got into psychedelic research in the 1970s was damned. I mean, you would fuck your reputation up. You'd screw your career up. Well, then,
really?
Then they pardoned all the draft dodgers. And he said, well, and then they also now psilocybin research and psychedelic research is become legal now again. So they're doing it all over. And he's involved in that. And he runs an organization called MAPS.
Yeah.
Let's see if they Unfortunately, they don't mention his organization here, but I have a link to it somewhere. But anyway, we'll just listen to this guy for a minute. Let's see if you can hear it.
In Nature Medicine. The FDA looks at statistical significance. So there's efficacy and safety. So efficacy is determined by basically statistical significance. And you have to have 0.05, which means 1 in 20 chance that it's random, that it's not from what you think it was. That your intervention, your experiment said, yes, it's statistically significant. That means it's 1 in 20 or lower chance that your finding is random. And you have to have 2 of those. And so if you have 1 in 20, and then you multiply them another 1 in 20, it's 1 in 400 chance that these 2 independent studies have produced results that are random, and then the FDA will approve it. Our first study was 1 in 10,000 chance that it was random. It was just incredible. Now, how do you do that? How do you get such great statistical significance? You get it because you have a big difference between the 2 groups, and you also have not that much variability. So what it means is the people that got MDMA, pretty much of them got major benefits, and the people that got the therapy without MDMA, so I should say the people got therapy with MDMA did great. Pretty not very much variability. It doesn't work for everybody, but we had 88% responders. We had 67% no longer had a diagnosis of PTSD. These are severe PTSD patients that had PTSD an average of 14 years, 1/3 over 20 years. And then we had another 21% had what's called clinically significant response. And they still have PTSD, but over time they might get better. If they could have had a 4th session, they might get better. So, and we had a great safety record. We had nobody nobody in the MDMA therapy group tried to kill themselves, tried to hurt themselves. We enrolled people that have previously attempted suicide. We did have one woman try to kill herself twice during the study, but she was in the placebo group. She got therapy without MDMA. We had another woman, it was so difficult for her to confront her trauma that she checked herself into a hospital to not self-harm. She also was in the placebo group. So there was...
Anyway, there's a lot of studies being done, particularly on PTSD, on addiction recovery. Like, what you have a drug addict and you give him this drug and he's not a drug addict anymore, or he's not suffering from his addiction anymore. He's still an addict, so they've had real significant results. And then there was a whole lot of misinformation in the 70s, 80s, and 90s about MDMA, which is ecstasy, by the way. There was a whole lot of misinformation, and one of the bits of misinformation, which he talks about in this clip, is they gave primates high doses or regular doses of MDMA, and they found fatalities like heart attacks among these primates were very significant, a statistically significant number of primates died of heart attacks. So they died of an overdose of MDMA. And this study went down and was repeated. The information from this study was repeated in other studies over and over again. Well, it turned out they found out that they had mislabeled the MDMA bottles, and they gave 125 milligrams of MDMA to these primates. It was actually methamphetamine. So they were giving 125 milligrams of methamphetamine to these primates, and they died, and they blamed it on MDMA.
No wonder they had a heart attack, right? That would...
Right. Yeah,
right?
That's that's the equivalent of 25 hits of White Cross on a relatively low weight animal. Not something you'd want to do without tolerance, that sort of thing.
Right,
Kill you,
right.
possibly kill you.
How could they make a mistake like holy shit?
Well, that's what they were musing about, is like, okay, Joe Rogan says, was it a mistake or was it part of a plan? Did they do this on purpose so that they could have, so that they could shit on psychedelics? And
right. That sounds more like it, right? Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, they fucked up somehow, and and the thing is that the pall of that study stuck around forever. It's like, that bullshit about some girl in 1969 took LSD and jumped off a building because she thought she could fly. That never happened.
Yeah.
LSD destroyed your chromosomes so that your babies would have birth defects. That wasn't true. There was absolutely no medical evidence that that was the case ever. And somehow that became like everybody believed that. I mean, just all this, you know, the other thing about bad trips, you know, which they popularized on TV. Bad trips are a real thing, but a bad trip is having a bad time and amplifying it by 100 because you were on LSD. And there certainly are bad trips, but they're very easily treatable. A simple shot of Thorazine completely brings you down and counteracts it. So anyway, it was just unbelievable how much misinformation there's been. And we're just now starting to look at these drugs again as a form of psychotherapy. So.
Now, I've known several people that have had some mental issues way back, and it was blamed on, you know, bad trips.
Yeah.
Way back, you know, back in the 70s.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty easy to believe that, you know, but what are the facts?
Right. Yeah, I mean, nobody knew, but people, you know, it was just, and I've known multiple people like that, you know, had drug problems, and they just had, and then suffered from mental illness where they seemed to be, you know, didn't have mental illness prior to, you know, or at least didn't seem to.
Yeah, I think all
in the
alcoholics,
younger years.
I think all alcoholics and heroin addicts and drug addicts, in some respect, they have a neuroses or actual mental illness, and what drugs do for you is medicate that. Yep. And that's one of the reasons why you get into it. I know for me, when I discovered alcohol, it was like a magic fucking potion that I drank, and I turned into Superman every time I drank it. And like I was this super self-conscious kid who was suffering from manic episodes and hallucinations and all kinds of fucking neuroses. And I drank alcohol and I became a normal human being for a couple hours. And it was like fucking magic. My memory of my first alcohol experience was I have just found fucking magic. And the same with meth. The first time I did an upper, it was like, oh my God, I can do anything now because of meth. And of course, that illusion went away within about 6 months. It didn't work long term. So anyway, there's all that. So Top Dog found this site. I don't know, Ground News. It's supposed to be an unbiased news. Is that true?
I don't know.
I think I put that in. I'll put that in the description. I don't know. I want to check it out because I'm looking for unbiased news. So.
Yeah, just like Fox News was fair and balanced.
Oh yeah, fair and balanced.
If you took, let's say, speed, you know, like pills, some sort of speed pills back in the 70s, what were you actually taking? You know,
actual pharmaceutical 5 milligram methamphetamine hydrochloride. It was actually it was called White Cross, and you got it from the doctor if you wanted to go on a diet, and they were handing it out to people left and right.
Okay.
And so it was actual.
I took a lot of that back in the 70s.
Yeah, White Cross.
Yeah.
And then they made
I think that's what they called it.
Yeah, you could tell it was real White Cross. It had a little cross, a little tiny white pill, 5 milligrams, and it had a little beveled edge. And then the fake ones didn't have the beveled edge. Because they started, you know, manufacturing meth and making fake White Cross. And of course, that's when we started to get into ephedrine and all kinds of weird impurities and all kinds of problems. That happened about mid-70s to the 80s. Because, you know, capitalism and money tend to fuck things up, and that's what happened in the drug trade. It just tended to fuck things up. Today, they're selling fentanyl as heroin because it's cost effective.
Right. Yeah.
They're killing people by the dozens. Like
Oh,
there
yeah.
are so many people dying of drug overdoses in Minneapolis that it never makes the news ever. It's
Yep.
not newsworthy.
Yeah, anymore.
And then
Yeah.
I go to these grief groups and I sit down with a dozen parents, 11 of which have lost their child through fentanyl overdose. And it's
Yep.
just so fucking prevalent.
Yep.
Real problem.
Yeah.
So let's see. Kenami. So we've been having this talk with Kenami or Amy or whatever the hell is it. Anybody know how to pronounce that? Don't really know.
I would just say Ami or Ami.
Kenami. Okay, you seem to have
Ami,
begun
I
with
don't
the you seem to have begun with the asserted conclusion that there's something wrong with lying, but why and how on atheism? Well, I responded to him this morning, and I said, Ken Ami, you are a social ape. You cannot survive but for the group you belong to. Morality persistently arises from the nature of the kind of beast you are. Now, atheism has nothing to do with morality. My atheism is simply a reaction to your fantasies. My atheism does not define me, but rather defines how I react to you. Like there is no worldview called atheism. Atheism is
know.
just what I do when I'm around a Christian.
Right.
Right?
I know. It's just, but that's just, they're so warped. And that's another example of them trying to put us on the same playing field as them.
Right.
Just another example of that. Yeah.
Yeah, like atheism is some worldview that
Yeah.
basically dictates
That's
how you live your life. No.
right. It's such bullshit. That the whole worldview thing that these Christians use, mostly that's the presuppers, right? So
Yep.
that's the presuppositional crap part of their apologetic shit, most of them. But they all use it pretty much. But yeah,
Yeah, if they were honest,
garbage, like yeah,
if they were being honest, they'd say, okay, on your metaphysical naturalism view, how do you justify lying is wrong? That's what they should ask. But they're conflating atheism with naturalism, and that is just ridiculous. So basically, if you're a metaphysical naturalist, right,
Yeah.
you're going to have thought long and hard about there's nothing supernatural, everything is physical laws, whatever, and you're going to believe that. And I am a metaphysical naturalist as well as, but most people are methodological naturalists. In fact, all people are. Everybody who's not locked in an institution being fed through tubes lives by methodological naturalism. We do not pray for a sandwich to come to us. We get up and we make the fucking sandwich.
Yeah.
We do it with natural physical laws and what we know about reality. So we're all methodological naturalists. And,
Right.
and that's the other thing is that you do not know about God when you're 4 years old, but you probably know that it's bad to lie to mom and dad.
Right. Exactly.
And
yeah.
why do you know that? Because mom and dad fucking told you it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so how is that any different than God told you it's wrong?
Yeah.
And
Now-
when you're a 4-year-old child, your parents have godly power over you.
Right.
I mean, they can send you to fucking hell for what you think is an eternity. You know, so you listen to them. Right?
Now, my opinion on this whole worldview shit. Now, I'm sure a philosopher would totally disagree. I would assume, but my opinion is there's just as many worldviews as there are people on the planet, right?
Right.
Because
exactly.
in fact, what is your worldview? Is how you perceive reality, how you perceive things, and everybody's unique and an individual. So everybody has a different worldview. Everybody, like, it's just I think that is just such garbage. It's intellectual masturbation is what it is when you start, right? I mean, when you start debating over that shit, I think it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Because there's, when you start saying, well, your worldview is this and this, well, everybody has their own. and you can add a label, a zillion different labels to every person. It's just, I think it's just all garbage myself.
Yep. Yeah, I do like thinking about metaphysics and philosophy and naturalism and all of that, and I've done a lot of work to justify it, but that's just a fucking hobby.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just a good thing to get you thinking. That's all it's good for. Like, and that's it. It really, I don't know. That's the way I feel.
now
It,
now if
it
I had
just
a
makes you think, and that's it.
if I had a strictly Christian worldview, instead of flushing the toilet, I would pray for the toilet to flush.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but I don't do that. I flush it. I reach out and grab the handle, push it down, flush the toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't pray for the toilet to flush. I don't
Yeah.
pray for my cancer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. As
go to
soon
the
as these
clinic.
Christians start saying that atheism is a worldview, atheism is a religion, what? Then you're dealing with an absolute lunatic. Now you're just dealing with an absolute moron when they start using that shit, because
Right.
I think it's just garbage. They're just trying to put you on the same playing field so they don't look stupid, but they actually, or because of their worldview is a little off the rails. So, I don't know, my opinion anyway. Oh, I think I lost you. You there, Speed? I think I lost you guys.
Oh no, you didn't.
Oh,
I
there.
was muted. I was muted.
Oh.
So tomorrow at 3 p.m. Wait a minute. Okay. Oh, tomorrow at 3 p.m. James Apperson is going to be at the captive desk, and Thursday, May 11th, Mark Reed is going to be there.
Those are both great catches, great opportunities for discussion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Captain Death does good interviews. He asks good questions, and he, drags shit out of people. So anyway, everybody go check that out.
Mark
So-
Reed has been making the rounds. Like, he's been doing a lot of stuff. He does a great job with the Christians, I think.
Yeah, he does.
He hammers them pretty good in a lot of cases, and he gets right into the meat of shit, on praise. Of course, you go over to Praise's channel. Holy crap, that guy's got more lunatics on that channel than he has any sane people.
Yeah, I understand they're going to make James sing. So
Yeah, he's gonna do the Elvis thing. Yeah.
Yep.
I still haven't seen that Elvis movie with Tom Hanks and then whoever that new famous guy is who played Elvis.
Oh, that's a good movie. That was a good movie. I enjoyed that. So Feckenal, somebody new? Feckenal
has been around, joined our side chat from time to time.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I don't pay enough attention to side chat.
Yeah. How about the other person that was chatting with us, Brucifer? Is that somebody new? Why do I not recognize that person?
I've seen Brucifer around a couple of times. I suspect it's somebody else that we know that's just using a different handle. But I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
Brucifer Higginsworth.
Yeah, I don't recognize that. I don't know if I've seen that person on here, but like you said, I'm sure it's somebody we know. Yeah.
Green wireframe visuals. Yeah, I think
Maynard.
I think I've done that.
Okay. They're saying, look,
it's Maynard Saves.
Well, that's what.
Okay.
Yes, is saying.
Well, I got to put that in my fucking database, don't I? Because you assholes won't keep his name.
Yeah.
Like you kept Laurie Hayes forever, and even though there are a lot of reasons you should have changed it, you didn't, and I applaud that.
Yeah, I could care less. I just, and like I said, I kept it because I was known. I was everywhere, and I was known by that. And
I've been everywhere.
and then I'd have to go through. I'd change it, and then I'd be like, "Oh, it's me! Oh, it's me! Oh, it's me!" You just be constantly doing that.
Yeah.
And people know me by that, so whatever. I don't really care.
Yeah, changing your identity so that people don't know who you are confuses the hosts, you know.
I know that's what I hate about this. Yeah, because people just and you just don't know who it is, and it that can get irritating after a while.
Right.
People start, as they call it, trolling, right? And they start doing shit like that, and it's irritating.
Scott, should I do this clip?
What do we got here? Anything interesting?
Yeah, Adam Conover. This has been kind of going over all the progressive news outlets, news streams. Did a real takedown of CNN while he was being interviewed on CNN. He's the star of Adam Ruins Everything, and so he produces all these essentially politicized essays in the form of comedy, but with real facts. And of course, he's controversial that way. You'll get all sorts of reactions to Adam Conover where he's off base and shit like that. So, this was a really good confrontation, which is really what journalists ought to be doing. But it seems like our comedians are the ones doing it now. So anyway, go ahead and play it.
Okay. I'm unmuted. That's a good thing. I'm trying to put it in the description before I play it.
That's right. Keep that tension going. That, ooh, what's Adam Conover going to say? What's Adam Conover going to say? But I think a lot of people might have already seen it. I have a suspicion that our viewers are kind of ahead of us on news and science updates and things like that.
Yeah, that's because we're not as spry as we used to be.
Yep.
We used to be spry, but we're not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play it.
So I'd point out the fact that David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, which is, the parent company of the network I'm talking to you on right now, was paid $250 million last year.
What the fuck?
$250 million. That's about the same level as what 10,000 writers are asking him to pay all of us collectively. All right. So I would say if you're being paid $250 million, Ted Sarandos made about $50 million last year. These companies are making enormous amounts of money. Their profits are going up. It's ridiculous for them to plead poverty when the writers who are making their shows, some of them are not able to pay their rent or their mortgages. I literally know writers who have had to go on assistance because they have not been able to make their year. If you look at these companies, they're making more money than ever. It's the people who make the shows for them that are making less.
Adam Conover, thank you so much for coming on because you ruined everything. You may have just ruined my career, but I don't mind.
That was a journalist with a good sense of humor. But then again, it almost makes me wonder if Adam was pushing hard enough because she could be humorous about it.
Yeah.
But why don't real journalists do? I know they're supposed to be objective and present both sides truthfully. But do you notice that Adam Conover was not making jokes, but he was presenting what seemed to be it's not contradictory, but opposing interests passionately. He was presenting I can't think of the word, where somebody there's an important issue and it was presented accurately but passionately. In other words, seriously. And I think a journalist can be fair and take issues seriously, but realize that this opposition, these two ideas in opposition, the lack of the so-called poverty of CNN versus the needs of the writers, as if it's a problem that there's no solution to. That tension. Okay, they present the tension and take it seriously, and don't be all C-SPAN like and drab and vanilla in presenting these issues. Journalists need to confront issues.
Right.
And Adam Conover really isn't a journalist, although I guess he's become I don't know. How would y'all categorize somebody like Adam Conover when they're talking seriously about serious issues?
A journalist, yeah.
Okay.
A talented person who can write, who's talking about facts. So I guess I would be a journalist, right? I don't know. So let's see if I can put this up here. Yeah, maybe I can. Maybe I can. Maybe I can. Hang on a second. I'm working on something. I'm producing
Are you
something.
producing?
I'm producing something. Yeah. So, like, I was a Republican for quite a while, right? And I come from a place called northeastern Minnesota, which is up there. And you see, Scott, Lake Superior is right below it. That is Lake
I
Superior.
see that. That is the allegedly Superior Lake.
It is the Superior Lake, and it's right next to the Superior State, famously next to the Superior northeastern Minnesota, unlike Liberal Lakes down here, Twin Cities, where I live now. They call it Liberal Lakes. Well, northeastern Minnesota was primarily Democratic up until Trumpian takeover. So it was all Democrats up there. And they were farmer labor, union people, right? And it was because of the steel industry. Like a large portion of your steel comes from this little holes in the ground up here in northeastern Minnesota. And I grew up with that. And I grew up around unions. And my father later became management. And there were strikes. And I was involved in a steel strike in like 69, I think it was. And for the Taconite mine. So I was a Republican that was very much pro-union because, like, what is a union? Like, okay, if you got a company, right? The company is a single unit. It's a corporation, means it has a corporeal body, right? It's one thing. And that company controls the lives of thousands and tens of thousands of workers. And each one of those workers could complain individually. And you can imagine how little effect that would have on the company overall. Well, what a union is it's a counteracting force to that company, right?
Yep.
Where all the employees get together and say, hey, we're people too, and we have incorporated as a union. And
Right.
I think that is, and like Republicans of late have become, in the last 20 or 30 years, have become anti-union because unions are wrecking everything. Well, now unions took on a life of their own, and some of them became damn stinky. They were embezzling, they were defrauding, I mean, there were problems, but
A lot of that has dropped off, though, right? Compared to
I think so,
the 60s and 70s.
well, the
I mean,
fucking
they were big
mafia
back then, right? Yeah,
the mafia
right.
got involved in unions for a while.
Right.
But anyway, when I was like 14, 15 years old, I was talking to a really old man, somebody who came from the old country in like 1900 and or 1910 or 1920. And he went to work in the mines, and he had been a miner all of his life. And I was talking to him about unions, and he said, well, in 1920, when I came here, I wanted a job. And so I went to the iron mines. And at that time, the iron mines were holes in the ground that were about 10 feet across. And what you did is you crawled down in those holes and you drilled, and you would put in charges and dynamite, and you would blow up a piece of the ground. Everybody, of course, would get out of the hole while they set the charge off. And then you'd go down there and you'd dig that rock out, right? And then that rock was your iron ore. That's how they mined iron. Anyway, so he wanted a job, so he went to one of the iron mines, and they said, sure, just go over here and wait by the lift or the elevator to come up from the underground mine. And if there is a body on the elevator, you got a job.
Oh,
that's where you got a job.
Wow.
And that's why fucking unions, people, because it was a pretty harsh environment. A lot of miners were killed.
Yeah. Wow.
And they still are, actually, but not anywhere near as often as they were killed back then.
Basically, the unions make sure that the corporations, the owners have incentive to invest in the safety and care of the workers, because they just won't
Yeah.
until it becomes a problem for them.
Yeah. Capitalism only works, and it works really well, Leo, but it works really well if you have controls over the capitalism and, you know, monopoly laws and unions and negotiations, and like they have to be legally monitored or they're going to get way the fuck out of hand. And now we don't have this monopoly thing that we used to have in the 70s. Like AT&T got broken up because it was the telephone company, and if you wanted a telephone, you had to go to AT&T, and they just started fucking people left and right. Well, what they did is they broke it up in 6 or 7 companies back in I think it was the 70s, and that was the end of the monopoly, you know, over telephone companies.
Well, who started that? Rockefeller really started. Rockefeller and what's the other guy there?
And as a
Rockefeller, I think, is the one that really he monopolized that Standard Oil, and then that's when the government stepped in because he was so ruthless.
Yeah.
Taking out all the little, he was kind of the one that started because there was no monopoly shit back then. You know, they didn't have any of those type of laws back then. And so,
and as a result of AT&T being broken up some 50 years ago, we have, like right now, you have a choice of mobile providers. If AT&T had not gotten broken up, you would not have that choice. You'd have one mobile provider. AT&T. Do you remember Lily Tomlin's skit where she'd play the Bell telephone? It was called Bell telephone operator, and people would call up to complain, and she'd say, you know, basically she'd fucking tell them off and say, "Where's the telephone company?" You know, nothing you can do about it. You know, if you want a telephone, you got to go to us. But anyway, it's just common sense. Politics is what the fuck we need a little bit more of, you know. It's like, oh, those goddamn workers are just making it so difficult for companies to survive, and the companies are barely making it, and we can only pay our CEO $250 million a year. What the fuck? Is that true? He gets $250 million a year?
I know, I was thinking about that. It's like, holy
Jesus
shit.
Christ.
Yeah, there's guys out there that make that, you know.
Yep. Sabine Hossenfelder has a video 2 months ago on marijuana, all the facts and numbers. Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I've watched a bunch of her stuff, but I haven't been really following her lately. But
she's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, she changed her format a bit. Now she's doing like general science news rather than specifically physics or quantum physics.
Yeah, she does science without the gobbledygook. And she refers to studies, and she kind of gives a balanced, oh, God, I'm not going to buy those. Fucking melatonin gummies are killing me right now. I got to go buy regular gummies.
Buy some or just have Uber bring you a bag or two over from CVS. They'll do that. Uber Eats, yeah.
You told me that 2 days ago, and I still haven't done it yet.
I know, because what, your finger's broken?
I think so. I'm afraid of Uber.
What, you want to get different gummy? You don't want the melatonin, you just said, right?
Right, because they're so good. You know, I'm sitting there at night, and I need a little bit of a sugar fix, and I got these melatonin gummies, and it's like I eat 10 of them, right? So that's 50 milligrams, and then I'm thinking, God, I need another 10. It has nothing to do with melatonin. So, you know, by 10 o'clock, I'm so fucking spiked out for melatonin that I have to crawl to bed and fucking drag myself in. I want to go to sleep now.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I got to do something about that. Scott, I'm going to get on that today. I'm going to fix that problem. Like, yeah, I guess, you know, as an addict, I can tell you, stay away from gummies.
I could use a whole bag of those. I haven't slept. I think I'm going on, I'm a good 36 hours, I think, roughly, maybe more.
Since I started the psilocybin therapy, I have been sleeping like a fucking rock. And other than snack waking me up, I could sleep 8 to 10 hours a night easily.
You need to give Snack some of those melatonin gummies.
I know. I need to give him some. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't sleep at all yesterday. I haven't slept at all today. I mean, it's not pretty early in the morning, and then I can't remember I think I only got probably like 5 or 6 hours the day before that. So
Yeah, when snack wakes me up, what I do is I sleep a good 2, 3, 4 hours in the afternoon, and I make up, manage to get 8 hours. If you don't get 8 hours of sleep a day, your longevity is going to suffer. There's a lot of studies about that.
yeah,
I
I don't get close. I couldn't sleep 8 hours if my life depended on it. I can't do it. Like, there's just no way.
We got something going on
I
here.
feel much better when I only get, between 4 and 6. I feel better. A lot of times, sometimes I'll catch up and I'll get like 7, and that's kind of like a catch-up day for me. And then if I only do 4 or 5, I feel much better. But if I stayed on the 7 hours all the time, I feel worse. I feel much better with less.
Hot off the press from Captive Desk. Quality and pet friendly except for raccoons. Never again. I concur.
That's funny.
Since I quit feeding my raccoons, they are just terrorizing everybody's garbage. They're just ripping cans apart.
I wonder what a raccoon would look like on psilocybin. I mean, when you're on psilocybin, I know you've seen a raccoon on psilocybin, but
yeah.
Well, I wonder what you look like to it. I for some reason, it just didn't click that when it screamed and ran away, it saw you psychedelically.
Yeah.
So I wonder what you look
probably, like. Yeah.
Like the biggest damn raccoon ever, or what?
Well, so what's up with your raccoons? Speed? Do they come around your house still a lot? And
I had 60 of I had 60 of them last year, and I quit feeding them. So over the winter, I had like 60 raccoons banging on my door, and I quit feeding them mostly because of this new cat I've got, and they're running. Like I've got a fence with a ceiling. The fence goes over the top, right, as well as around the wall.
Yep.
And they're running on top of that, and they're breaking the welds, and they're breaking in, and I'm afraid they're going to hurt my cats.
Yeah.
And so I had to quit feeding them. And the other thing, like the first year I had like 10, then I had 20, then I had 40.
Yeah.
I had 60.
Yeah.
So this year I'm estimating I would have had 100 raccoons out there. And I was going through $100 worth of dog food a month to feed those raccoons.
Yeah.
I got to fucking stop. And they were still begging for more. And it's like, I can't.
Right. Yep. Yeah. They will just continue to eat. They almost practically eat themselves to death almost.
It breaks my heart, that this happened. So anyway.
Yep. But it's better for them because it's just like you said. Now you'd end up with 100 of them, and you can cause more damage than good by doing that, right? Because it's not good for them. Because then they just become so dependent, and they're not. And then you cut that off. That's bad. Which obviously, I'm sure it had an effect on them. Some of them could have struggled pretty bad, because although they're pretty resourceful, so I don't know.
Yeah, I basically there's I live by a river valley, and there's a field of psilocybin out there in a couple of different places, and I threw some plant matter and stuff on top of that bed of psilocybin, And then I looked the next day, and the raccoons had been digging everything up and eating all of that mycelium. And that night, I heard this weird raccoons making noises that they don't normally make.
Yeah.
And they were out there chattering around. So I walk out the door, okay, and there's a like a hill into the river valley, and I shine a 3760 lumen flashlight on this raccoon who looked at me. He was out there in the woods, and he looked at me and he screamed the loudest scream I've ever heard. A raccoon let out, and he ran into the bushes. He ran off into the woods. Now you can imagine from his point of view, if he was really ripped on psilocybin, which is me speculating quite a bit, but
Right, yeah.
Right.
You might not be far off, though. You could be right.
So he hears this click, and he sees this shadowy form coming closer and closer, and all of a sudden this gigantic sun-shaped light shines on him, right? Like God.
Yeah.
It's like, holy fuck, Kafai was right. I just saw God.
Yeah.
And his reaction was to scream and run off into the woods. So
yeah. So you walk towards him before you turn the light on, right? You're saying?
Then blasted him. It was the loudest I've ever heard one scream.
That is.
And he looked like his
funny.
fur was sticking out, and he didn't, he looked like he had been through a real trip, real bad trip already. Poor thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think he'll be back.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you said they're still coming around.
Only wondered, they come around and they raid everybody's garbage cans equally, so they're not hanging around my house anymore, and they're not running on the fence. And it took them 3 or 4 months, and I felt it just broke my heart to see them out there, because they're so hungry, and you can do so much good by feeding them.
Yeah.
But I had to do it. I just, it just kills me yet. But I can't start again. I just can't do it anymore. For one thing, I'm breaking a city ordinance by doing it. So it's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They don't like
$1,000 fine and 6 months in jail if you feed animals by putting food on the ground.
Yeah.
Lovely. Anyway, so what else were we kicking around today, Scott? Scott has left the building.
No, I'm just slow. Like I said, I'm slow with everything today.
Yeah, I don't know what else.
I think we've covered everything. You see, we didn't write anything down.
No, let's see. Okay, wait a minute. No, I had cats, ketamine. Oh, cell cringe.
Oh, I was just about to say any cell.
You were going cell cringe. I was going, what? Is that some new thing? Is there a paper about cell cringe? And if you have that, you're going to die or something? But no, you mean Sal cringe.
Yes. Sal did this video on genetic entropy called Darwin Goes Bonkers, Intro Lessons for Sal's Pal DapperDino, who thinks evolutionism is good science. That's right there. That one. Okay, and so Sal tried to be clever and put together a video with little clips and shit like that, and then he has this wonderful genetic model here, which really tells you what Sal's level of understanding of population genetics is. That we have the mommy Eve, and then we have baby with one mutation, and this is the best baby, and here's the other baby, and the other baby. And he said, well, obviously, best baby has a mutation, right? So if best baby has kids, they're going to have 2 mutations, right? So, I mean, it's simple math. We can figure it out. So he calls it the fake fittest, right? Because to sell fittest means like superhumans and stuff like that. And then and he goes on and he does this entire he's talking about Muller's limit and crap like that. Nothing in here of any with any content. The guy is an idiot.
Yeah. Now, do you think there's there, like, is he just like completely delusional and he just lies to himself and just doesn't even realize he's doing it, or
That's
you
what I
he
think.
truly knows that this is all bullshit? I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but he's got to know some of it is that he's spewing, right? I mean, he must know some is.
Okay, when you have a
Or
real strong emotionally powered belief, and you hear some evidence that may be contrary to that belief, what your mind does is it makes a little shortcut across that evidence without ever comprehending the evidence fully. And
Yeah.
it doesn't help that Cell is of average or below average intelligence, because you need a lot of intelligence in order to see through your own
bullshit.
in order to see through your own biases and beliefs, right?
Right. Yeah.
Cell is not smart enough to do that. And he's a young earth creationist, and he's a young earth creationist for emotional reasons, not for anything having to do with science or
Right.
anything reasonable. You know? So
Right.
he is going to simplify things like his population genetics. This is just the stupidest model or explanation ever. And he refers to Muller's limit or Muller's ratchet. He renamed it Muller's limit because he thinks he's a real important scientist in the 21st century, right? So he created his own name. But what he's talking about is a very simple population genetics model where you take a small population of bacteria and you apply a certain mutation rate. And what happens is that they accumulate mutations faster than natural selection can help them out. And you end up with an extinct population, right?
Yeah.
Now, this happens all of the time in life. There are populations that become extinct because they get cordoned off. In fact, that's what happened to the Neanderthals. And so he's preaching to the choir here when it comes to extinction. It is a very real possibility if you have a small population. Now, they're applying it to human beings, and they want to say that, like some woman wrote in the comment here, she said, as a mother, this is shocking to know that my baby is more mutated than me.
Yeah.
I mean, really, do you want to think about your children as more mutated than you are?
No,
Like,
I wouldn't.
What the fuck? And okay, your grandchildren, Dave, are even more
Oh
mutated.
my God, they're really mutated.
They're
They're
really
mutants.
mutated.
Holy shit. Yeah.
That's why they duct tape you to chairs. Because
Yeah,
they're
there you go. Yep.
They're so mutant.
All right.
I mean,
so my question is, okay, right? Now Sal has to go through, and all these guys that do this type of thing, they have to put a good amount of effort into coming up with this stuff. Do you think his train of thought and his how you just described it as bypassing, just the way their brain works, you think he just bypasses all of it and is able to come up with this shit? Like, but you have to do research in order to come up with this. So that's what baffles me about it.
well, the kind of research he does is so fucking bad. Like, that's all he needs is to have something confirm his bias, and that's
And he just latches onto that. Yeah, his brain just latches that onto that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he stops reading the paper.
Yeah. But I listen to these Christians on here, all these, especially the young earthers. I just think they're completely off their rocker. Like, how can you, living in the, in this day and age and access to all the things that you can gather, and you have that type of a train of thought, the way they think, it's like, holy shit. I almost have a hard time separating that from actual like mental illness, like at least slight mental illness or so. You know what I have a real difficult time with that. Like, I just think these people are bonkers.
Well, and anybody that doesn't examine their beliefs is suffering in a way from mental illness.
Yeah,
And that applies to all of us every day, all the time. And it's
right.
a form of mental illness. So what we have to endeavor to do is to keep fucking examining our beliefs, and we actually have to listen to the other side. And I do
Yeah.
listen to these creationists, but here's what I hear when I listen to them. Okay, so in 1995, Alexei Kondrashov wrote a paper, Contamination of the Genome by Very Slightly Deleterious Mutations. Why have we not died 100 times over? Now, Sell never talks about anything in this paper other than that. That's it. That's as far as he goes. Now, this paper has a title with a rhetorical question in it. It's about
Right.
the paradox of why we haven't died 100 times over. Well, we know the Neanderthals and every other type of hominid, basically every other species, did die out. They became extinct. They got into small populations, and
Right.
the dodo bird went extinct. A lot of things go extinct, right? But now
Right.
we have 8 billion people, right? Is it 8 now? Or is it?
Yeah, yeah,
We just went to 8. And Kondrashov goes through all of this math, and basically it's a real dense paper, and Sell is never going to be able to get the gist of it. And then at the very end of it, and Kondrashov wrote a book about this, Simplifying Assumptions. Let's see, where are we here? Possible, I got to get down to the bottom. Right there and up one. Okay, possible resolutions and implications of the paradox. Okay, it is the paradox. So what he's talking about is, why haven't we died 100 times over? We haven't, obviously. So
Right.
it's a paradox. So basically, and he offers all a number of possible solutions to the paradox that we need to research, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem is no different for young Earth creationists, because when Noah and his buddies hopped off the ark, there were 6 reproductive members of that group, and that was a small population that should have died within a few centuries, but it didn't. It's a fucking paradox, right? So why aren't they dead? So the creationists can't rely on that, because they think that we had a very, very tiny population of human beings.
Right.
And so they come up with all kinds of ideas like, oh, well, back on Noah's Ark time, their genomes were so spectacular and perfect because God, that, that's how they survive. But it's just bullshit. It doesn't work with population.
I find these people, they're just masters at cherry picking. Like you said, he latched onto that one.
Yep.
That one sentence in that paper, right? He latched onto that, or one quote or whatever, and that's it. And and it's just, it seemed there's such desperation there that they just want to believe that, right? So bad that any little thing, and they're just masters, at mental gymnastics, like,
and
just like you said, taking that whole Noah's thing and just twisting it every which way to come up with some sort of an excuse to be able to not sound stupid, right?
And John Sanford, whose gene gun is in the Smithsonian Museum or Institution, said we're all dying. And John Sanford said that, so we got to believe him, because his gene gun is in the Smithsonian, and he saved billions of people from starvation. Blah blah blah. But John Sanford became a born again Christian, and he went fucking nuts with it, and that's his passion now, is saving everybody, and Jesus. No, we don't have to listen to John Sanford, because all he's done is cherry pick Kimura and misrepresent Kimura, and we know that's what they're doing. So he's got this. Sell tried to create a real video, and he did a really, really amateur job.
Yeah, I mean, you take guys like him, like Stanford, and you take James Tour. I mean, educated people, and and they just, how the hell do you come up with, having that level of education and become a young Earth creationist?
It's because
Like,
they have had experiences very much like that raccoon that I shined the light on.
yeah, and
They
it's
they
just that
screamed.
powerful. Yeah,
Yeah, they screamed and ran off into the woods.
yeah,
Basically, John Sanford will talk about. Well, James Tour talks about his addiction to pornography when he was a teenager, and a
yeah. That's
17,
like,
18-year-old man, and he was Jewish, so he had this horrible guilt over his addiction to pornography.
right. Yeah,
Right? Instead
yeah,
of just whacking off like a normal kid, he was plagued by guilt. And so then he hooked up with a Christian who basically spent 3 weeks brainwashing him. And then he was in a hotel, and he woke up from a dream and had an experience where he saw Jesus in his room, and it changed his life. And that's a valid thing. It made a change in his life. He had a
yeah,
spiritual experience, very much like the raccoon did when I shined the 3760 lumen
yeah,
fluorescent.
yeah.
And he ran off into the woods, and he never thought again. Then everything else had to become confirmation of that experience. And the
Yeah.
more he told the story of seeing Jesus, the more real the story became. And that's James Tour. And now John Sanford had a similar experience, a born-again Christian experience. And if you listen to every born-again Christian who's really out there screaming about this stuff, they've all had emotional trauma and really bad problems in their life, drug addiction, or some of them even have
It's always
attempted
the
murder.
Yeah.
And then they had this come to Jesus moment, which a lot of people have. I've had them several times in my life, and I had a very powerful one 16 years ago, which sobered me up. But I did not have the dogma. So I didn't have anything to blame. Well, I go to AA every week for 16 years because it was in AA meetings that I sobered up, right? So in a sense, I too have that dogma, right? That's the way I sobered up, and I'm like, oh, guys, you got to go to AA if you got a problem, because it worked for me. It's the same thing. Unfortunately, in AA, we don't have an AA God, and we don't have a cult leader. So.
I don't know. For me, I struggle. I mean, these people. Of course, we're dealing with, like you said, you're dealing with the worst online here, right?
Yep.
Practically,
Yeah.
most of them. They're a lot of pretty bad people on here, and I just, all the stuff that I watch, I just find the Christians to be just really lousy, really nasty people. Like, for instance, you see these just recently in the past probably month or so, two different Christians. They're online. They're on in a live stream, and they're shooting the breeze. And next thing you know, you hear them taking a leak in the bathroom, and it's like, really, are you really that much of a piece of shit?
Yeah, I know.
Seriously, I mean, I found that happened twice in the past couple of months, and of course,
How old was this person?
Both of them were Christians, and it's just like, that just shows you what type of person you are. Like, oh my Jesus,
How old was that person?
I don't know. There was two different people. One of them was P Town. I know that. He did it once, and there was one other one.
Well, if they're older than 20, then somebody needs to roll up a newspaper or some equivalent,
and whack
them in the side of the head.
Yeah. So, UC Love, could you please post a link to that, or give me some idea what H3 versus Ollie is? Do you know what that is, Scott?
H3 versus Ollie?
Ollie, yeah.
Never heard of it.
Anyway, UC, could you give us a link to that, because that sounds like something we want to take a look at.
Yeah.
Theism in America is the lowest in recorded history. Now you got the worst bunch watching the world disappear. Yeah, they are panicking a little bit, but think about it. Sal Cordova and John Sanford want public schools to teach children that they are more mutated than their grandparents and their parents, and that their kids are going to be even more mutated, and that we're going to mutate and mutate until God comes and saves our asses. I mean, that's what they want us to teach children. Can you imagine what effect that would have on the psyche of a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old? That you are there's something defective about you compared to your parents.
Well, isn't that, well, I don't know about compared to the parents, but isn't that the message that they preach anyway, except
Yeah, your
spiritually?
original sin. Yeah.
It's just a part of their spiel, and they're trying to physicalize it and then mythologize it by making it like their own form of science. They're trying to create their own words and make them sound scientific, and just make that the reality that that their people believe they are living in. And it's like brainwashing. It's, once again, cult-like behavior, creating your own world over and against the evil, quote unquote capital W world that wants to destroy their souls.
And what does belonging to a cult get you? What Morena said here. Basically, you get with a group of people who are going to over and over confirm your emotionally biased bigotry, your hatred of humanity, and we just want to sin, and we can judge sinners, and we can sit up on high, and we can judge other people, and that's what being in a cult gets you. You think you are the chosen little island of people, and you can basically sit there and judge all day long. Nobody loves judging and gossip more than the fucking Homo sapien, right? It's just, in fact, we're doing it right now on them, right? We're doing exactly that. Basically judging this group from on high here. So we have
they've relabeled just analysis and discourse and skepticism into something evil. So yeah, we're quote unquote judging God, but that's what any sane person would do given the information that you're presented with about that particular.
Yeah.
The person this entity is not. There's no evidence of its existence. The things that are taught are just wrong, and outdated, and they shouldn't have any kind of influence over people, but they do. And so, yeah, they're gonna accuse us of judging God, and that's supposed to stop us in our tracks because you don't judge God. Well, if you're in a cult, maybe, and you've been
my friends. Hello, my haters.
Sorry.
I know there's some watching, but
I thought we had to let another person in the.
Hey, that comment that you highlighted just a minute ago with the the online Christian. Yeah, I found that comment interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, here's the video that UC Love gave us. Ethan confronts Ollie London, whatever, off the rails. Okay, anyway, yeah, that is an interesting comment because, I mean, if you wanna find bigotry, go to these fundamentalist groups.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you're freaked out about the fact that there are gay and trans people, and you want to get stroked, go to these groups. They'll stroke you.
Yeah.
But then sometimes a minister comes out and says, "Hey, Christian love and tolerance," and they say, "Oh no, that minister is a goat. We must judge him as well." That's what Answers in Genesis did yesterday in one of their opinion pieces, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let me go ahead and link this in the description for everybody.
I mean, Jesus, you go on all these streams, and especially these live streams, and you're watching the side chat, and the shit that these Christians type into these side chats are just the dumbest ass shit. And it's like, are you really that fucking stupid? Seriously, I find them to be really off the rails myself, and some of the shit that they type in here.
People will allow themselves to say stupid shit when it confirms that powerfully emotional belief that they have already bought into, right? And that's a problem. And, we started out talking about my psychedelic experience. That is the one thing, or that is one of the goals of doing that, is to examine everything about myself in utter detail so that I can attempt to see around those little emotional nuggets that are driving me. In other words, I want to document the landscape, that terrain that lies just beneath what I believe in, right? And if I'm wrong about atheism, then sometime in the next year, I am going to become a Christian or something, or a Muslim, right? Because I'm examining this stuff at the very core. And I don't like doing that. I'm afraid of doing that.
Where's Cafe? Cafe would be very proud of you.
Yeah. Except sorry, Cafe, but all of my tripping so far, no mention of Gödel's incompleteness theorem.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did I get two people mixed up there?
I think you got two people mixed up.
Oh, okay. No God. I have not seen God. No.
It's funny,
Excuse me, guys.
Whoa.
I've gone on. I just recently I was on a Christian, a tiny little channel that I happened to find. I don't recall what it was, but I just happened to click on it, and there's Cafe in the side chat. And it's funny how these people, like a person like him.
Last year, I made a video about how the mainstream.
Whoops. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
A lot of these other Christians, they will say things, far worse, just stupid ass things in the side chats of a Christian channel versus an atheist channel. Like Cafe would not type the shit that he was typing in that chat. He would not come here and type that in, because he just, he would get the shit from everybody here, of course. So of course that's part of the reason why you wouldn't do it. But it's just amazing that you really see what they really like when they get into those types of channels, and they're free to really express themselves, right? Like, holy shit, he is really off the rails, or you know what I mean? You get to know them a little more, a little deeper in those situations, because they say shit like, wow, you're worse than I thought, is kind of at least my thought. Same thing with like Stephanie Trenton. She's the same way. She'll come on here and she says some whacked out shit, but you see her read some of her stuff when she's on a Christian channel, and she's just bashing atheists constantly, saying all kinds of shit. So and many other ones are the same way.
Yeah, I talked to Kafai in person, and he is just the nicest guy. And he's,
I know, that's the thing. It's so hard to separate.
Yeah, but boy, he just absolutely insists that the God that he saw was the true God of Spinoza. He just will not. Like I exchanged 10,000 texts with that guy over the last 10 years, and because I met him long before I got on YouTube. And I'm telling you, there was no budging this guy. He had an experience on mushrooms that basically hit him at a time, and he adopted a dogma around that experience, because like you take a high dose of mushrooms, a heroic dose of mushrooms, and your ego doesn't just melt down. It's in so many pieces that you don't even know what the fucking ego might be, And then oftentimes, or like every maybe 1 out of 20 trips, you get this fucking immense feeling of just absolute belonging to the universe, where you like I walked out in the yard and it was snowing, and I was like, I felt this gratitude that was more powerful than anything I'd ever felt. And for like 5 days,
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, I just love being alive. And it was like, if I had dogma around that, like God, like I saw God, and like I would have stuck to that. I would have clung to it, right? And
Yeah.
and I think that's
Now look at what Dave just wrote in there. Rebecca said that this there isn't much worse than an atheist. Can you just imagine? Like, I don't
Rebecca
know.
Watson or Rebecca Davis?
I'm sure
Okay.
Davis probably.
Yeah,
right?
because Rebecca Watson was like on the Skeptic Guide to the Universe for years, so it's hard for me to think that she would say that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's Rebecca Davis.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Sabine Hossenfelder's got some fallout for. I don't know. I watched it and I fell asleep like 3 times during the video, and then I rewatched it, and I still haven't found anything that Sabine said that didn't seem like she was just trying to look at all the facts. So I do not have a bad opinion of Sabine Hossenfelder, but I will listen to this video and find out.
Yeah, it just came out. I haven't listened to it either, but I thought, I've always respected Rebecca Watson, so I thought, okay, well,
I really respect Sabine Hossenfelder, and almost everything I've read that she's come up with has been a really well balanced trip through the papers and what is being said. So, but she did put her foot in it, and of course we talked about this and we agreed we're not putting our foot in anything. It's like, but no, I'm not stamping approval on what anybody says about anything. To tell you the truth, go out and look at the fucking facts, for everything. That's what we need to do. So we'll have to check this out. I will check that out in my as soon as we get off here, because I'm interested anyway. See, examining our beliefs, like are coming down on these creationists and stuff. I've had to reevaluate that once a week for the last 3 years. What the fuck am I doing? Is there a reason I'm doing what I'm doing? Am I being reasonable? Coming down on creationists and as hard as I do. And that's just something always worth reevaluating. It's always an open question as to whether or not we are doing the same thing from a different camp, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that has crossed my mind many times.
Yeah,
I
lest
agree.
we become.
I always try to reevaluate.
Yeah, the phrase is lest we become them. We want to be careful about that. But
that's a good way to put it.
I still read evolutionary biology every single day, and I'm looking for a reason why we couldn't have evolved. And as soon as I fucking find one, I will tell you all about it. What I'm finding instead is I'm finding more and more evidence for evolution from common ancestors. I mean, it's everywhere. The more you learn about basically a phylum of animals, and you look at how they develop from embryology, right? You look at how they develop, and you start looking at the genes, and you start looking at the molecular biology. The evolution of those separate species from a common ancestor becomes so fucking obvious that you can feel it viscerally.
Yeah.
And I have not found anything that says it's impossible. That's where.
Right. And there's another good comment, Younger. They deny every field of science, which is that's so true. You have to have that belief.
Yep. Child affirmative care saves lives, and 99% don't regret it. That's my understanding anyways. Yeah, and that's my understanding. But you gotta look at all the facts. You gotta keep looking at facts. Fact.
Yep. But like we said, the especially the young earthers. They're masters at cherry picking, and that's what
Randolph
they do.
is here. I'm sorry,
They
sorry,
look at
Randolph, but I'm
everything.
getting shoot him in the heady feelings.
Yeah, feelings. Yeah,
Randolph, I've saw him. He's been making his rounds on the internet because
Yes,
he's been posting a lot of Twitter retweets and things like that. So
yeah,
he's
you're
just
late.
out and wandering the internet.
You're coming in at the 2-hour mark, Randolph, and that's never a good thing on this channel.
Good. Good to see you, Randolph.
I sort of run out of steam after 2 hours, so I don't know. Oh fuck! I guess I said way too much about psychedelics in this last 2 hours.
Well, you've been wanting to for weeks.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that
So there's nothing wrong with that.
there isn't anything about my life that I don't want to be transparently put out in public and examined. And this has become a big part of my life. And I've had to kind of like fucking hide it. And I don't want to do that. I'm in psychedelic therapy and I'm going to stay there for a while. So
Why do you say you had to hide it? Like way
I
back,
was
right?
Okay,
I mean, way back you did. Not.
I got Sal Cordova calling me a high school dropout who burned his brain out from drugs and alcohol. And here I'm talking about taking a drug, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get some fucking pushback on that. I know it's gonna happen. It's gonna be a big thing at one point.
Yeah.
Gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. But we are talking about Sal. You really give a shit about what he thinks? I
Not
wouldn't
really,
say
but-
you do, right? Yeah.
Well, I give a shit about what somebody else might think reading or hearing, listening to him about me, right?
Yeah.
Well, that goes to, how we're all famous in our own minds, in our own little, in our own
Yeah.
worlds, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
That is not what my mind tells me.
But I don't know, all through my life being like extremely honest about my addiction and my psychological problems in my past has never been a bad thing to me. Even though in the moment I've had some real serious issues dealing with certain individuals, it's never turned out to be bad to be as transparent as I can be about who I am and what my life has been, right? I mean, I've never hid the fact that I dropped out of high school and then I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. And I was a fucking Republican, a conservative Republican who hated immigrants. I mean, I've talked about all that shit, and I don't see where that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue trying to be as honest as I can with everybody.
Boy, I'll tell you, if I made a fool of myself like Sal has done, I think I would go climb in a hole somewhere and pull a blanket over my head.
Oh my God! If I saw that video of me throwing books on the ground,
Yeah,
no
I'd
sign
be
of Kyle's incompleteness there.
I'd be all done. Yeah, if I made a fool of myself that bad, I'd be like, no, I think I'm all done with the internet. Holy shit.
Oh, I want to mention Deconverted Man. Go check out his videos; they're hilarious, and he is just so. I mean, he's somebody to watch.
Yeah. I
And
do.
Captive
I do
Death.
keep up with them. Yeah.
And
There's
Randolph Richards.
There's so many. I try to support as many as I can, but there's just so many out there. Yeah.
God, I wish I had a lot of money so I could give them all money and encourage them all.
Yeah.
As it is, I think I do James Downard, Erica. There's a DapperDino, a couple other sites that I cut DapperDino because I had to cut back tremendously on my Patreon contributions. But God, I wish I had money to give to all of them.
There's a lot of good channels out there for science lovers, for skeptics, for
So Captive Desk and Deconverted Man are going to do a collab in the future. May do a collab in the near future. So pretty cool.
That'll be an event.
And here's Deconverted
Yeah.
Man's channel. Right there.
Water. I've needed water.
So I want to shoot her in the head.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready.
Yep, I'm going to put this in my.
That's
You're
your
the
call,
boss.
Coach.
You're the boss.
I
Man.
don't want to be the boss
Yep.
of anything. God damn it. It's too much responsibility. Don't want to do
Can't
that.
handle it.
I find it disturbing that this channel hasn't done better than
Yeah, I'm,
with subscribers.
I find that disturbing too.
You know, it really sucks because we've all of well, you really, but I think you've done some pretty good content for quite a while.
It's this
You
group
know?
of people that we have. That's what's done good content here, and it's just I don't know, goddamn shame. Cover a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't cover it well. Well, like Cordova, he did this cringy thing, this Darwin thing. Like, just
Yeah.
give it a listen. What the hell? Why not?
But I wonder why Mother Nature is carrying a gun.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like, he tried to.
Yeah, well, you have to speed them up that fast because I do. If I try to go through
I'll
any
do
of that stuff.
1.5. Spanky.
Look, Mother Nature just made a little move toward one of the babies with her gun. What's she going to do to the baby? Oh no! Mother Nature just said, "Hasta la vista, baby."
Hasta la vista, baby. Hasta la vista, baby.
What the kind of content is he
Oh!
putting out now?
Mother Nature just whacked the unfit baby in the middle. Oh! Mother Nature just whacked Eve of old age. Dearly beloved, we say farewell to the true fittest of all time. There will never again be one as fit as Eve, because when Mueller's limit is reached or violated, Darwin goes bonkers. Oh! Mother Nature just whacked the other unfit baby on the left. Mother Nature may be beautiful, but she's one mean mother. But look, there's one sole survivor here. It's none other than fake fittest baby. Let us give the surviving fake fittest baby a name. Let us call her Jane. Let's watch Jane grow up. Baby Jane becomes toddler Jane, then child Jane, then teen Jane, then adult Jane, then eventually mommy Jane. Nevertheless, throughout the process, she retains the one harmful mutation she was born with, and her offspring will inherit this harmful mutation. Now remember, Jane would...
No, that's not a given. Recombination, sexual reproduction. No, the offspring.
Right.
You cannot say the offspring will inherit the mutation. No,
Right.
Sal, you're fucking.
And what about all the other mutations? It's not. They don't just have one mutation, right?
Well, what he doesn't understand is that recombination can come along and wipe that entire 100 mutations out in one fucking shot, and it's gone. It's gone forever.
Yeah.
And if you have a large population like humans do, okay, that recombination is going to be wiping this shit out left and right. And there's an equilibrium that is reached in a species of a certain size population. And he just totally lies about all that. But anyway, boys and girls, when you first set out on YouTube and you do videos, what you want to do, and I applaud his effort, because he spent more time than I spent putting together content. But when it's this fucking bad, you throw it away. You don't actually put it out on the internet.
Yeah.
And this is fucking horrible. I mean, this fucking.
Hey, do you have the link in the description? We are having requests for it.
Oh, yes, I believe I do. Let's see here. Hang on a second. Or no, I don't. I am so bad at this description stuff. Okay, let me go ahead and put that in the description. I'll put that somewhere near the top. Working on it, my people. Copy the video URL and put that in there. And save it.
So does he ever really define the word fitness, or is he being equivocal about it?
Yeah, he spent a lot of time defining it as the finest airplane ever designed. And that isn't how natural selection or evolution fucking works. I'm sorry, children. It's just, it has nothing to do with how finely designed things are, because it ain't fucking designed. It's a bit of a stochastic process. So the temple of the
where
cat.
brain is warped. Exactly. Right. Just the way you described it. Yep.
Oh my God, there's a temple of the cat. Is there? I gotta watch this. Oh, Temple of the Cat.
It says a song, right? It's a song.
I guess so.
There was a song written the year of it. Was there a Year of the Cat song like back in the 70s or 80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because something just went off in my head. Yeah, it was a pretty good song.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Hide message and.
Let me tell you about the fateful day a unicorn named Charlie arrived in a big fuzzy temple, a temple so out of the way that no map I've seen has ever even drawn it. In a state of befuddlement, he clip towards a fuzzy pantheon when suddenly a figure all shrouded in shadow and intrigue opened up their eyes and said,
Oh no. The Temple of the Cat. Oh my God. Look at him.
Oh, look at that. Looks like Thor. That would, right?
Yeah, it's Loki. It's Loki.
Loki, rather. Yeah, Loki.
Oh my goodness. Where'd that one come from?
There's a lot of the same colors that you had.
Looks like a combination bulldog cat. I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
Holy shit. I'm getting a flashback.
Yeah, I would think you would.
Quick, call 911 from Minnesota.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Thanks, Randolph. Anyway, I linked it in the description so people can check that out too as well. Okay. What do you think? Should we get out of here?
You're the boss, Chief. You're the boss.
I need to go and look at the sunshine, and the leaves are popping everywhere out here, and I need to go for a walk down the hill again.
Yeah, Randolph says that comes from the same people that made Charlie the Unicorn. So
yeah, I suspected.
It's gonna be wild. It's got to be wild.
I want to check out more of this content. So it's pretty good shit.
Yeah, I've had the shittiest weather around here for quite a while. We've had a lot of rain and shitty weather, but we got some good weather coming up though.
Well, there's that wall or that omega of something or another that's giving us like unusually warm and sunny weather, and everybody else to the east and west of us are getting shit on.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. So
it's supposed to be sunny and like 70 over the weekend, I think. So that should be nice.
Yeah. So when I sent you pictures the other day from the river valley, Scott, I was like walking into an area that I don't normally walk in, and I took this really long walk, went down the hill, took a really long walk, and came up in a park way the fuck, off in a residential area, and walked. And as I was walking back, I'm like, too far. I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Sometimes you overestimate where the halfway point should.
Oh my goodness, I was so tired when I got back. Holy shit. I'm gonna go do that again today. Downing Thomas has it right.
Yep. This is garden weekend. I got to do my garden this weekend.
Yep. I got to plant willow trees. I got 25 willow trees I'm going to plant between me and my neighbors, so we can't see each other anymore because we don't want to see. We love each other, but we don't want to look at each other. So, yeah.
That isn't the new one with the kids.
Yeah. We decided. Yeah, we decided to put a fence between us because we don't want to look at each other.
Yeah.
That way, when you go into the backyard naked to look at raccoons,
right,
you don't offend anybody.
No, Scott, we don't want to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
We're not admitting to anything.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to be open and transparent.
Yeah, what happened to that?
I don't want my clothes to be transparent in your mind. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Okay.
We
That's
don't want to
fair.
go that far.
yeah.
Too
That's fair.
far, too soon, too fast. Okay, we're shooting her in the head. So thank you everybody out there in chat for showing up.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you for coming.
Yeah, it was a great side chat.
Hopefully, we entertained you a little bit.
Yeah, or got you to think maybe, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you to think something other than I need to find another live stream.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Goodbye, crew.